All right, thank you everyone for joining us today for our webinar on Metazoa's new Org Security Center. It's a great tool to help you manage profiles and permission sets and security in general in your org. Just a couple of housekeeping items as we get started. You are muted as you come on to the webinar here. We have a lot of attendees today. So if you have a question during the session, you'll see a button for Q&A and a button for chat. Please go ahead and use those to ask any questions, and we'll answer as many as we can as we get to the end of the session. Okay, thanks everybody. I'm Tom Appleton. I've got Sridhar with me today, who's going to help take us through the demo of the Org Security Center. We're really excited about this one. We've been launching solutions for various problems that occur in Salesforce orgs as they grow and as they become more complex. And certainly security is one of those that fits into that category. So today we're going to talk about the solution that Metazoa has put together to help you manage profiles, help you manage permission sets, and help you get your security optimized and put together for an org. So just on that note, first thing that we wanted to talk about are the centers. So a couple of weeks ago, we did a webinar on our technical debt center, which is a solution for cleaning up all the unused stuff, all that technical debt in your Salesforce org. Very comprehensive solution for that. We also have a solution for documenting your org, very comprehensive, able to do data dictionaries, document any of the 220 metadata types in your org. So a great documentation tool for administrator reference or compliance. Should have a webinar for that coming up in the next few weeks, so keep your eyes peeled for it. You have also got the Security Center, which we're talking about today, which we're going to hear plenty about, but our great tool for managing security with the Salesforce ecosystem. We have our Monarch data migration tool. So if you need data migration for Salesforce, it does relational data migration, and a really great tool for that. And then a lot of you know us for our Snapshot Org Management solution, which really rolls up all of the functionality of our centers, our data migration, and even adds in release management and metadata deployment as part of that as well. So that's kind of just an outline of our suites and the new centers that we're launching that are really targeted at specific solutions. And today, as we said, we're talking about our Org Security Center. So the Org Security Center, everybody knows that as Salesforce orgs grow, as they become more complex, you really can get a spider web of profiles, permission sets groups, and being able to understand that, to document it, to optimize it, really becomes a tough challenge. And so we put together a solution that brings our tools for managing profiles and permission sets, along with some other great security features, all together into one solution that we call Org Security Center. And you can kind of see here all the list of the problems that we sort of tackle. And essentially the way the tool works, and you're going to see it today when Sridhar takes us through it, is that, we've got about 6 different tools, apps, reports, however you want to kind of classify them, that really help you tackle these problems. We have our profile and permission set report that really documents security into a matrix, so you can quickly track down for any profile, for any permission set, what the setting is. You can actually flip it to look by user. So you're tracking down those problems. Show me why Tom is deleting accounts, or show me why Sridhar can't delete accounts. We'll walk you through for any user. We have a great user permission assignments interface so that you can do mass assignments for permission sets or profiles or users. And you can even do things like intelligently merge similar profiles or permission sets so that you can optimize your model. So imagine taking a number of profiles that are similar, merging them into a base profile, automatically creating permission sets to fill the gaps, and reassigning the users. That kind of stuff, doing that manually in Salesforce is a really painful mathematical challenge. And we've got some great tools for that. And then we've added some other nice icing on the cake, if you will. Our user activity timeline lets you in a detailed way track what users are doing, what data they're accessing, when they're logging in, all those types of things for security. We have a great relationship hierarchy interface that lets you visually manage things like roles, which have a connection to security, obviously. We have a great Salesforce Limits report, so you can keep track of all your limits, where they are, see if you see any usage patterns that you might want to be concerned about. And also we have a great security health check that'll help you document a lot of things like password policies and other things that you might need to document for your security team or for compliance. So pulling all of that together into one centralized place that really comprehensively tackles the security issue that a lot of orgs have as they grow and they become bigger. So that's what we're going to dive in and take a look at today. Again, just a reminder, if you have questions during the presentation today, use that Q&A button on your interface there and put the question in. We'll address as many as we can when we get to the Q&A at the end of the demo. So with that, I am going to hand things off to Sridhar here. All right, Sridhar, you are in charge, sir. Take the demo away.
Thank you, Tom. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Everybody should be able to see my screen, and we will get started. All right. So here are the options, some of the centers and whatnot that Tom was talking about earlier. We had talked about the Technical Debt Center. This time around, we are going to be talking about Org Security Center, and there is an upcoming webinar for the Documentation Center. To quickly reiterate, all of these are already part of your Snapshot license. If you guys are a Snapshot customer, thank you so much for joining again. All of these are already part of your product and you can use it today. For this particular session here, we're going to be talking about Org Security Center. So let me launch that, get right into it. Before I get into the product itself, very quick blurb about our architecture. As you guys can see here, we are primarily a desktop client. So this is much like your browser or your data loader. You are installing this on your machine, a Windows box or a Mac box that you might have, and that client talks directly to your Salesforce instance and back, which means you're essentially getting a zero trust environment, right? You're not sharing your metadata, your data, or security credentials with us. Everything stays in your control at all times. We never receive any of this information. And that makes a very big difference to our healthcare, finance, government customers there, which is why we prefer this approach. In this case, I'm running this, as you can see here, on a Windows box, and I'm going to be logging on to my production org right here. There are about 6 reports that we're going to go through today. I'm going to start off with the profiles and permission sets report. So I've selected that, put in the credentials for my org there, and I'm going to go launch to get started. The tool knows enough to go download the metadata of your org, your profiles, your permission sets, anything that it's related to, so that it can chart that information. We are using the metadata API to do all of that stuff automatically for you. Org size doesn't matter. We will automatically split your metadata into metadata API suitable chunks and download the metadata, and it's all done on your machine. Again, that zero trust environment comes into play here. What we have done here is to help you understand how your profiles and permission sets and permission set groups are set up. So towards that, you have appropriate segments, profiles, every part of profiles, permission sets, every part of permission sets there, permission set groups. And along with all of that stuff, you can combine any and all of this stuff to focus on the user itself. How does my user get security X or privilege Y? And if you want to compare users, this is a great tool as well that's coming under combined security. We'll see that in a second. So let's go right in, first talk about profiles. Selecting any of these segments here, like I have done here, if I click on object permissions, I see a matrix that helps me see how my profiles are set up. Profiles are from top to bottom, and my objects are from left to right, so I can see my object security model, right? Whoever has full CRUD, whoever has no access there, just create and read, or full access, view all data, modify all data, added in, calls out every part of it. You can jump around, go see field permissions or external data source access, page access, class access, record type visibility, whatever part of it, you select it, and that's what you're seeing, and you can jump around, see all of that metadata. That's relating to profiles. You also have these checkboxes where you can select multiple things to document them all in one shot, and that's why they exist there, as opposed to a quick view into the current thing that I'm looking into. Right? You can do this exact same thing if you are looking to go into permission sets there or permission set groups here. And one of the things that we have also done here is, excuse me, I've executed a trim. Maybe I don't want to look at the whole thing there, so I can right click and go into trim table here to focus on only the metadata that I want to look into. So I care about only these permission sets, those objects, and that's exactly what I'm looking into, right? So I don't have to go boil the ocean, report on every single thing there is, right? One more thing that we have done here, especially useful when I go look at something like profiles there. Some of our customers are trying to create reports about, separation of duties there, right? How are each of these objects controlled? So if I want to go look into, create, delete, edit, read, view, modify, all whatever, it helps to separate them out in every single way possible. There are different columns for every one of those things, so they can filter it down. Also useful for those separation of duty matrices there. So we took care of that with a right click. Right click, go to expand object permissions, and boom, you're now seeing a separated out matrix. Every one of those object security model there separated out into a different column, so you can see things appropriately, right? If you guys are going into exports and whatnot, what you see is what you get. So if you don't want the expanded access there, then use the much more consolidated approach. That's okay as well. And that's available for every part there: profiles, permission sets, permission set groups, and such. Now, one of the reasons why people come to us is to help understand what is the final security. How did somebody get this access, right? Take, for example, me and Tom, right? We are doing the same job. We might be assigned the same profile there, but Tom has a little bit more access. He has the ability to go delete accounts, whereas me, I don't have the ability to delete accounts, even though we have the same profile. That obviously comes from permission sets or permission set groups, but which one? I have to go figure all that stuff out, which takes a lot of effort in Salesforce. Entirely possible, yes, but the amount of elbow grease you put into it is too much. We try to make it easier using combined security. You can select any part of this: object permissions, field permissions, whatnot, and jump right into it to see what the final security is assigned for users. Right? In this case, I've already selected users there, and you can see that Bill Appleton and Tom Barnes and their security. Let's actually go in and see how I selected them, selected these users, and how I can find out what security they've been assigned or not. I'm going to go into display report. Oh, by the way, before I forget about this, I can checkbox multiple things, right? Earlier, we've been talking about when I click it, I see the view right here for that particular metadata, but I did mention how I can use these checkboxes to select multiple things to get a full view there, and that's what I've done here. Right. Combined security, let's focus on those object permissions there. Here are my users against permissions. Let's start off by selecting users. This gives you a great way of selecting whichever users you want to focus on. They can be by name or by permission. This could be as easy as, get me everybody with this particular profile, or that particular role, or this particular user permission, this particular permission set assigned to them, or license assigned to them, whatever. Or if you prefer to select users by filters, Salesforce reports like, get me anybody with a division of, research and, with a title of director, however you want to divvy it up, you could do exactly that. Or if you're SQL savvy, you can write your own SQL statements as well, right? But the idea is you can find any number of users you want, select them. Up to 2,500 users can be selected at once, and you can jump in and see their security. In this case, I've selected two just to show you how things work, right? So I have Bill and Tom here, and the objects that I wanted to focus on, select it, and it shows me Bill has full CRUD to the account object, whereas Tom has full access. View all data, modify all data, added on to the account object, right? So as high as you can go. Now there is a different color which also has meaning that tells you how they got there. So if I go into detailed report, it shows you how you got there. It shows Bill is assigned the custom standard user profile. So first line is the profile assigned to Bill here, which gives him read and view. And there are some permission sets assigned to Bill here, one of which gives him delete and edit, and the other gives him create. Add it all up to the profiles read and view, you get full CRUD. Because that profile model there of read and view is elevated using these permission sets, we color this in green to clearly show you that there is successful elevation, everything is good to go, and here is how you got to the final security from the profile, right? So it helps you figure it out end to end. But when you see Tom here, Tom was already admin. He already had full access, view all data, modify all data, added on to the account object. So these permission sets assigned to him don't really do much, right? They're just essentially reiterating it or providing some lower privileges. There's no way you're going to go beyond that modify all data privilege there. So we color this in red to kind of call out that fact to you that there is some potential, redundant permissions assigned here. So there are some chances of optimization there. So to kind of call that out, we color this in red. There might be other reasons. There might be other reasons why that permission sets are assigned to Tom here, but just from a account perspective, this is the reason. Allergies going on there. Okay, so here is the reason why this is colored in red. There is some potential redundancies there. And beautiful part about that is what you see is what you get. You can flip these details on and off, and whatever you are seeing, you can export those things out to Excel, HTML, PDF, or CSV, right? Everything is exportable, everything is reportable, and this gives you a great way of understanding your profiles and permission sets model using our org security center, right? You can report on profiles, permission set groups are focused on users themselves using the relevant sections. Now, once you see all of this stuff, maybe you've identified a problem. Maybe you need to correct that. That's really where our next feature, user permission assignments, comes in. Just like before, you can select that, log into the org, launch it. And what this does is it helps you go rejigger those permissions, assign people to the right profile, right permission set, or you create a permission set, you can assign it to various people there and do that really, really fast. Let's look at that. So starts off with a 4-column approach under the assigned permissions. Select users, same way we saw the last time, select up to 2,500 users. And what this does is, as you select and jump between these users, it shows you what profiles they've been assigned to, what permission set groups, what permission sets, and they all change as I jump around. The idea is if there is a problem that you want to correct, you can do that right here. You can assign more permission sets, remove permission set assignments or profiles or whatever, and then update that user's security model, right? Much, much easier to do than that constant clicking around that you have to go through in Salesforce. Or flip it around. Let's say you created a new permission set, right? Let's call it an account read write. You want to assign it to a bunch of folks. In a typical Salesforce UI page there, you would go find user after user after user, and you guys already know how fun that is. So instead of doing that, you can rapidly select a whole bunch of users, check all, boom, save that assignment. That permission set or that permission set group gets assigned to a whole bunch of these guys, so you can move really, really rapidly. The idea is it removes or reduces the amount of manual effort that you're going to do, you're going to go through to help you move really fast and focus on the real innovation that you want to go through, right? That's in assignments. If you want to create permission set groups, you could do that as well. Select your permission sets there, calculate assignment. It'll go figure out what users are assigned to what permission sets there, create a group, and then assign them to the appropriate group. The fun part here is it can also, as Tom was saying before, it can merge profiles for you. Consider a scenario where back in the day, you've created a lot of profiles. Now, every single time somebody wants some additional security privilege there, this was before the time when there were permission sets. There was no way to do that except by cloning that profile, adding that increased permission privilege there, and boom, assigning it to the person, right? So in a lot of our older orgs there, you would have almost a one-to-one user to profile ratio. And that was pretty bad, right? Enter permission sets, things have gotten a lot more nimble, a lot more easier to manage there. But still, there are a lot of orgs that have a whole bunch of profiles there. This is designed to help you, cut short that and manage your profiles in a much better fashion. What this does is you can select any number of profiles, and I'm going to calculate a replacement there. What it does is any profile that you select, it goes through, identifies the commonalities across all 4 of these selected profiles, and that common set gets pushed out to a base profile. Anything that goes beyond that base profile gets pushed out to a permission set, right? So let me give you an example there. So let's say I have a contract manager profile here that gives access to accounts and opportunities. This one gives you access to accounts and cases. This one gives you accounts and opportunities and cases and maybe some leads or something like that, right? The idea is it looks through all 4 of those profiles, identifies that account is the intersection, and puts that privilege to base profile. Everything else, the access to a opportunity goes into the appropriate permission set. Opportunity and case gets over here. Opportunity, case, and lead gets over there. Whatever be the case, the idea is the tool knows how to compute the permissions in a very, very focused manner. And as part of that, it can also reassign your users to the right profile permission set combination. In other words, your users need not know that you have changed the back end because their security setup never changes. They still have access to everything that they had access to before, and nothing new got opened up to them. Whereas from your perspective, you just simplified 4 profiles into 1 profile, an appropriate number of permission sets there, which are sparse and hence much easily managed, right? And if you don't want to hold on to those old profiles, you can also delete them. Everything is handled for you end to end when you hit that button. As Tom was saying, we do all that math that you have to go through to figure out what profiles there are, what privileges that are assigned to them, how are they supposed to be redistributed, assigned to users, and we manage all of that end to end and get that taken care of for you. Right? That's the merge profile feature. And if you want to report on all of this stuff, that's what the select reports is for. Helps you see what users are assigned to what profiles, what permission sets are assigned to these guys, or the flip of it, permission sets to users, profiles to users, however you want to go about it. Select whatever you need, get that reported on, get that exported to Excel, PDF, HTML, whatever formats you want. So you have the ability to go run reports, as well as the ability to go rejigger those assignments any which way that you want through user permission assignments. So we've talked about profiles and permission sets to help you document your profiles, your permission sets, and how they are assigned to users, and user permission assignments to go rejigger all of that stuff to help you change the model, move more into a permission set based model there instead of the old profile based model, right? Makes a very big difference to do it this fast. So that's your profiles and permission sets and user permission assignments that we talked about. Let's go through some of the other options. I'm going to start off with the relationship hierarchies. Relationship hierarchies helps you deal with things like roles, right? The data aspect of it. Log into whatever org you need. And what it does is it charts out your roles in the hierarchical fashion that you're used to or wanting. Give that a second. There we go. And here is my role hierarchy, right? CEO and a whole bunch of complex stuff there. The beautiful part about all of this stuff is you can edit these roles right here. You can edit, create, delete roles right here. Anything that you select, you can go assign users to it, or if you want to rejigger your role hierarchy, you can do it right here as well. It's as simple as drag and drop, right? We do recognize that could get a little scary, so we want to confirm with you that, hey, you are making these changes. Did you intend to make that change? So it's pretty safe, focuses on what change you're making there, and it can make that happen right here, and we'll write all of that stuff into Salesforce. That's the tree view way of doing things, right? With your role hierarchy. You can also do the same in a list view if that's a little bit easier for you to handle. And wherever you are, if you want to, rejigger all of that stuff to help you see the stuff better, you could do that. It also gives you the ability to put these things out into reports, just like what you're seeing there in some of the other features there, a tabular way of reporting that information. How many users are assigned to what roles there, what are the user names and things like that. You can execute these things as well. We do have a way of documenting this kind of stuff for accounts and hierarchies. Anything that's hierarchical, we can document it, but the role is the mainstay of this particular feature. Help you understand those role hierarchies, helps you document that, helps you rejigger it if you need to. That's all done using relationship hierarchies. User activity timeline. This helps you keep track of what your users are doing in your org and then get that documented. This actually came to us from a customer request there, and it was actually a scary story. We have a customer, we have a customer there who had a very interesting problem. The problem was that they had a very high value sales guy, enterprise sales rep, who suddenly up and quit. Right. And they were not really able to explain why the guy suddenly quit. But just before this person walked out, they ran this report, the user activity timeline, just to see what they've been doing, what this person has been doing in the org. And what they found out was this guy has been running reports of all of their opportunities and printing them out, exporting them, printing them out, and then walking out with it. So essentially, he was taking the entire opportunity pipeline with all the contacts, whatnot, and walking out the door with it. With that user activity timeline kind of laid out for them, they were able to sit the person down and have a chat, right? So that's really the story behind the user activity timeline there. Let me show you some of the things that they went through. User activity timeline, log into the org that you want to go into. By the way, this can be any kind of org. It could be a scratch org, could be a developer edition, could be a sandbox, any kind of sandbox, a full copy sandbox or a Lightning Dev Pro, whatever you might want to document at that particular time there, including production orgs, or if you want to SSO or MFA into these orgs, you could go for OAuth endpoints as well, right? In this case, I'm going to stick with my production org and go into user activity timeline. There we go. Again, select whatever user you want to look into. Look into the time frame that you want to go back into, and then the events that you care about. We do have the facility to go into Salesforce's event log. For those people who don't know what this is about, Salesforce has a fantastic feature called a bundle called Salesforce Shield. An interesting part about Salesforce Shield is a feature called event monitoring. So in other words, what this event monitoring does is it logs every single touch point from a user perspective into the Salesforce system, Salesforce servers, and then documents that. So that generates thousands or millions of data points about every interaction that user goes through in a typical day, right? Every single thing. So, if they touch a record, that spins off an Apex trigger there, or they make an API call, or they issue some, data exports or data imports there using bulk API. Every single part of it can be documented, including, dashboard events, whatnot. So it's actually a pretty heavyweight thing that Salesforce is taking care of you. So it is an add-on that comes to you. Some of you might have it. In case you have it, we have the ability to get into that. Other things you could do with it: log all your login information, what failures you had, success you had, whatnot, any touch points into your metadata itself. Could be anything, critical updates that were applied, or forecasts that were customized, added a field there, or changed the security model, whatever. You can document that. You can also document changes to records themselves, standard objects, custom objects, or historical information there. Let me go see, what they've been doing in the org history there, pick list value changes, things like that, right? Whatever you want to select, you can select that. You can simply right click and say, I want this, I don't want that, whatever be the case. Okay. In this particular case, I've selected a couple of users, a few of the events, and I'm going to run a report for the last 2 weeks. What this does is it goes through my entire org, runs those focused reports, and then comes back and reports what my guys have been doing in the org, and tells me Tom here has been changing the role, VP marketing role that was just done in a few days ago there. But since the time, he has created one single opportunity and a few interesting things there with profiles. In other words, this person has not done much work. Especially if he was a sales guy, definitely been screwing off, right? Not really doing much except for creating an opportunity. That opportunity has not been tended to, not been working on other things. So if they have been making calls and things like that, those kind of things also would have been logged. That has not been done. So it gives you the evidence that you need to go see what they've been doing in the org or not. And whatever you see there, you could definitely generate a report of that and get that exported out. Like everything else, to Excel, HTML, PDF, or CSV. The colors that you're seeing there, by the way, just depends upon what kind of risk level there. So obviously creating an opportunity is low risk level there. So it's called out thus. Other things could be high risk there. It's called out thus. You can manage that risk level right here as well. So you could go in and say, Apex soap call there, it's not a problem. But if they've been working on bulk API or bulk API 2 there, that's higher risk item. I can go change that risk level right here and then appropriately color those kind of setups, right? User activity timeline, again, to help you see what's going on in the org and handle things from a security perspective. Last couple of things here, Salesforce Limits. Some of you guys are already familiar with this stuff. Helps you understand for whatever org you want there. Helps you understand how your org limits are set up. This could be any part of it, goes through every single thing and exports that out. Some of these are already available in Salesforce through the UI. The idea behind us setting this up is a lot of our customers need this for, as Tom mentioned, compliance reasons. You do need the exportable report, which this gives you. And it also calls out if you are close to the limits on some of these things, right? My data storage limit there, I'm at about 20% remaining, and that might be a problem for me. It helps me call those things out, right? And you can manage that. You can manage that and say, maybe I don't care about, 25% or below. I care about it only when I get to 10%. Right? You can set up your limits and change that appropriately. Right? That's for org limits. But you could also do this for any particular objects. Maybe you are working on a service cloud, so your cases are very important to you. You want to go see your case limits there, or like most people there, they want to keep an eye on accounts there and see how many custom fields are there, or if they are very close to any of the available limits there, because they are very close to the field limit. So anything that's getting added in needs to be highlighted for you, things like that. You could do that using Salesforce Limits. Again, that's focused on documenting any limits associated with the org or for a particular custom object or standard object itself. And just like before, you can select multiple things, get that reported, and then get that exported out to Excel or HTML, PDF, CSV, whatever you prefer. The last but not the least is a security health check, which focuses on things like password policies and session policies, things like that. Again, available in Salesforce, but we focus on getting that out in an exportable format so you can rapidly go in and select things, get that reported on, exported out to Excel and such, and you can decide what the risk factor is for various things there. Session policies, remote site settings, which might be okay, given that everything has been validated there is no problems with the disabled protocol security options, things like that, or session settings there, documents, how long your session is valid for. Maybe you opened it up to 8 hours or less, or something like that, however you want. Security and key management is another key area that people get into. How many security certificates they have, how many of them have expired already, how many of them are still to go, whatever be the case, it calls those out, and those things are all selectable, reportable, and then exportable to Excel, HTML, PDF, or CSV. Right? Again, that's the security health check, stuff that is already available in Salesforce for you in an exportable format to Excel and whatnot. Right? That's really what the security health check report is about. So again, all of these things are put together under the org security center. The idea behind that is to help you understand how the security model is set up through the profiles and permission sets. How is that focused on the user itself? What kind of privilege the user is getting through what profile or permission set there? Or if you want to rejigger that, you can do that for using the user permission assignment. This could be for profiles or for permission sets, right? You could merge permission sets, you could merge profiles there, or if you want to pick up a whole bunch of things from profiles, move them into permission sets. So you want to assign everybody to minimum access Salesforce, and then assign them permission sets or permissions and groups appropriately. You could do all of that stuff in the user permission assignments, and everything else is reporting to help you keep track of how things are working. Are they working properly in your org and such? That's again what the org security center is about. It's a desktop client again that helps you get that zero trust security model that some of you might be in need of. That's it. Let me hand it right back to you, Tom.
Thank you, Sri. The last thing I want to say is, please reach out to us if you'd like to get a demo. All of these things, including our org security center, as well as our snapshot tool, are all available to check out on the App Exchange with free trials. So please go check it out there, and we'll be glad to help you any way that we can. So thanks, everybody. Really appreciate your time today, and hope you found this session really useful.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.